Verse 19. For creation awaits with eager expectation the revelation of the children of God. Creation itself is waiting for you to be revealed. Creation was made subject to futility, not of its own accord, but because of the one who subjected it in hope, that creation itself would be set free from slavery to corruption and share in the glorious freedom of the children of God. We know that all creation is groaning in labour pains, even until now. And not only that, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit. Now that's one of those lines that I've highlighted. We have the first fruits of the Spirit. And this session I'm going to talk to you about what those first fruits are. We groan within ourselves as we await adoption, the redemption of our bodies. You see, your bodies are like the rest of creation. They're groaning in labour pains because they're under the weight of sin. Your bodies were never made for sin. God didn't intend your bodies for sin. So your bodies were created to last forever. And unfortunately, they're not, are they? Okay. I go out of bed in the mornings nowadays and my legs ache. When I was 19, my legs didn't ache. No matter how much exercise I did, my legs didn't ache. Now, my legs ache walking up and down the stairs. My body's groaning and saying, look Derek, you can't keep doing this. You're getting on. Okay, I know it's sad, I'm only 44. But you know, I'm getting on, okay? And I'm thinking, this is the way things happen. Okay? But this isn't the intention. The intention is an immortal body that doesn't ache, doesn't groan, doesn't suffer sickness, doesn't suffer disease, doesn't suffer. That's the plan. That was the plan, and that is the plan. You will get your body back, ladies and gentlemen. And it will be, better. It will be. I'm trying to be very cautious. It will be better, okay? It will be infinitely better, alright? Okay, now, verse 23. We ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit. Now Paul is using Jewish terminology. But do you ever use the word first fruits in your day-to-day activities? No, exactly, right, neither do I. Okay? But Paul uses the term first fruits on several occasions. And he's actually referring to a feast of the Jews when he uses it. So, you all want to know more, don't you? Yes, okay. Now, to understand this, we have got to go to what is generally regarded as one of the most boring books of the Bible. Okay, would anybody like to have a go at what is one of the most boring books of the Bible? Anyone want to?
Leviticus.
Leviticus, thank you, Anne. Bingo! Leviticus. Now, you see, it's considered to be the one that people stumble at because it just doesn't make sense. So we're going to go to Leviticus and I'm going to show you some of the wealth that is within that book. Go to chapter 23, please.
Signed it first.
Near the beginning.
Third book, thank you very much. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, third book of the Bible. And you want to go to chapter 23. Now once again, I remind you, Leviticus is virtually dictated by God. So when I read the book of Leviticus, I read it as Jesus said to Moses. Okay? Jesus said to Moses. That's how I read it. And in chapter 23, verse 1, Jesus said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, The following are the festivals of the Lord, my feast days, which you shall celebrate with the sacred assembly. So these feast days, I'm going to point out to you, are God's. And it's going to begin with the Sabbath in verse 3. In verse 4 he talks about the Passover. But we are interested in verse 15. Verse 15, which says, beginning with the day after the Sabbath, the Passover Sabbath, that is. Okay, the Passover Sabbath. So think of Easter. Beginning with Easter Sunday. The day on which you bring the wave offering sheaf. You shall count 7 full weeks. Where does that bring us to? Pentecost. Fantastic. Fantastic. Then on the day after the 7th week, the 50th day. 50th is where we get Pentecost from. Pentecost is Greek for 50th. Alright? The 50th day. You shall present the new cereal offering to the Lord. Verse 17. For the wave offering of your first fruits to the Lord. Right, pause there. Does everyone have first fruits or does anyone have something else? First fruits? Okay, we have a few first fruits. The first fruits is the important thing now. And what I want to point out to you is Pentecost. Pentecost has got 3 names in Judaism. The Feast of Pentecost is called Pentecost because it's the 50th day after Passover. It's called the Feast of Weeks because it is 7 weeks after Passover. And it is called the First Fruits. And that's probably the most important title I want to share with you for this session. It's called the First Fruits because it's the day on which the Jews, after harvesting for 7 weeks, they bring in the first fruits of the harvest into the temple of the Lord and they present it before the Lord. It's almost like a tithe. Alright? So they bring in the first fruits of the harvest to God. Yes? This is a really important principle. First fruits. So when the Jew has been working in the barley fields for the last 7 weeks, and he brings in the first fruits of his labours to God, and he presents them to God. He presents them to the Levite, and the high priest takes them, and they make an offering. The purpose of that first fruit, you see, it doesn't benefit God, does it? God's got the first fruits, what's he going to do with it? Yes? Who is benefiting from giving over the first fruits? The people. How is the farmer benefiting? How is the farmer... Hold on, just think about it. I'm just working you up to the argument. I want to think, hold on a minute, if I bring in the first fruits of my labours to God, how is that benefiting me? By giving away the first fruits, the best, by the way, it's not just the ordinary scraps. This is the best, you have to bring in the best.
Is this the covenant where God then gives the best back?
Hold on a minute.
Sorry.
Wait for it, Eamon. Wait for it. Wait for it, Merv. Sorry. Why am I calling you Eamon? Merv. Wait for it, Merv. Don't forget, yes, you have to think in terms of self-giving. When you give to God, what does God do? Gives to you. However, if the Jews actually bringing in the harvest, what has God already given me?
The harvest.
He's already given me the harvest, right? So, by giving God the first fruits, I'm acknowledging that God has given me the harvest. Yes? Now, but that's not it. That's not finished. You see, I'm giving God 10% of my harvest. 10%. That's the first fruits is essentially you want to give God 10%. By giving God the 10%, by giving God my first fruits on Pentecost Sunday, it consecrates the entire harvest to God. So I've got a massive field, thousands of acres of wheat,